If you find yourself living on Social Security alone, this video is for you. Up next, I'm going to share with you 10 simple tips to live on Social Security alone and nothing else. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
According to Pew Research, 1 in 4 retirees live on Social Security alone, and almost half live on Social Security as their primary source of income. Unfortunately, many of those same people feel like they've done something wrong because others shame them for not being better prepared, making a difficult situation far, far worse. It's important to note that with every hurtful comment, there's a real human being on the other side of that comment. And this video isn't about what you should have done, but rather it's a solutions video to help you make the most of the years ahead. Also, stick around to the end because I'm going to take a couple of minutes and talk about what I call the joy to dollar study. The study basically concluded that money wasn't the driver of happiness, and you can be almost as happy, and in some circumstances even more happy than very wealthy people, just by doing the right things. All right, let's go. Point number 1, pay off your high interest rate debt ASAP. For 95% plus of you, that means your credit card. Credit card debt drains a large portion of an already modest Social Security payment. And because credit card debt has to be paid every month, and it's paid at very high interest rates, it's not an option. So paying that credit card off pronto, even if you have to forego other things to do it, is job one. Now, at this point, many people feel like they're stuck. They can't do it. But I will tell you that even if you pay a few extra dollars towards your credit card debt this month and every month, eventually it has a snowball effect. And you're paying more and more principal simply by paying more than the minimum necessary on that credit card. Getting that paid down will give you free cash flow, and free cash flow equals freedom. And once you have the freedom of no high interest rate debt, the world looks like a completely different place. You get to do things instead of have to do things. It's a completely different outlook. Point 2, know where you spend your money. I mean, really know where you spend your money. What that means is track everything you spend for an entire month and then do the exercise periodically. Write it down, put it in your phone, however you need to do it, but capture it somewhere. If you spend $3 on a coffee, put it down. If you spend $5 on parking, put it down. And the reason isn't because you're trying to micromanage every dollar that you spend, but it gives you complete clarity. And with clarity, you have a lot more power over your finances. Clarity is power. Now, what does power mean exactly? Well, if you know where every single dollar goes, down to the dollar, at least when you do this exercise every so often, you have a very good idea. In fact, I would say a crystal clear idea of where the waste is and where you're spending money that you might not need to spend money on in the future if you rearrange a few things. And it's very important if you're living on just your Social Security payment that you don't spend money on wasteful things, because I will tell you the vast majority of those you won't even remember next month or the month after. People spend money on wasteful things simply because they're bored oftentimes. They go to the dollar store and they'll buy a few things because they feel like spending. But when they get home, often that same purchase sits in the trunk for weeks, even months, before they realize that it's there. For many people, spending money makes them feel great. It's an endorphin hit, and that's very dangerous because it's human nature. So it's hard to get away from it unless you really understand what's going on. And the way to know what's going on, track every dollar that you spend every once in a while. Now, you don't need to do this forever. And I will say, in fact, most people can't do this forever because it becomes very taxing on you. But you can do it for a month. Write down everything that you spend money on, review your bank account statements, review your credit card statements, really understand what came in and what went out and why. Tip 3, evaluate your healthcare access, quality, and costs in your state. Access to quality healthcare varies wildly from state to state. In some states, there's a high concentration of doctors and hospitals in a particular area, and it's a buyer's market, so to speak. It's a patient's market. If you don't like this doctor, well, then you can switch to another doctor. In other areas, it's just the opposite. There are very few doctors and a lot of people. In all cases, you need to know that you need quality healthcare in retirement. There's no way to get around it. So evaluate your area and make the best choice for you, given your specific situation. Because for most people, choosing the right coverage means the difference between having a healthy, active retirement and one where you're trying to chase coverage and letting small things go unaddressed until they become big things. Speaking of healthcare, we are in what's called the Medicare annual enrollment period between now and December 7th. Every year, Medicare Advantage plans change, coverage changes, and some coverage just goes away altogether. In fact, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal published recently that said 1.2 million people were losing coverage on their Medicare Advantage plan. And even if you're happy with your current plan, things change every year, and you have between now and December 7th to look at your options for 2026. On this channel, we have only 3 affiliate relationships. One is our trusted Medicare partner, Chapter. They're the only Medicare partner we have. Chapter is a Medicare advisor that we highly recommend. They look at every plan nationwide to see if that plan is right for you. If you're on the right plan, they'll tell you. If not, they'll help you switch. The best part is that it only takes about 20 minutes of your time. They're absolutely free, and they save their clients an average of $1,100 per year. So if this is of interest to you, give them a call at 440-703-1224 to see if they can help. Tip number 4, keep your space spotless. Now you're saying, Jeff, what does that have to do with living on Social Security alone? Well, as it turns out, everything. Let me explain. A clean, organized home prevents overbuying and duplicate purchases. The boxes that you have under the sink or up in the attic or down in the basement probably contain things that you're going to buy again, in many cases anyway. It also improves mental clarity and emotional well-being. Think about the last time you walked into somebody's apartment or the house and it was spotless. You had some specific thoughts about that person. You probably thought that they were well organized. You might even think that they had more money than they actually had because everything had its place. But the person living in that apartment or that home also felt a lot better about living in that particular space. Now, this takes time. Decluttering takes time. I have several videos on this channel about decluttering. I'll put a link in the description below to 1 or 2 of them so that you can get started. The important point to note is that the benefits of having a really clean house are massive, both on your finances and on your mental and physical health. Tip 5, cancel all automatic subscriptions unless they are actually necessary. Not desired, but necessary. Now, once you complete the exercise of identifying where you spend every dollar, you've identified the leaks in the system, the next step is to start plugging those leaks. Subscriptions are a massive leak. Now, I'll tell you something that happened to me about a month ago, and it could happen to you too. But I managed to catch myself before the big financial outlay. Like many people, we have a dog, and we love our dog. And I take our dog in 2 or 3 times a year to the vet for things like vaccines or checkups or teeth cleaning, etc. The last time I took my dog to the vet, at the end of the exam, the vet said, I'm just going to give it a name, we have a doggy care subscription plan, and the plan covers a lot of routine care for the dog. He said it's $249 a month, and for $249 a month, a lot of your dog's routine care is already covered. Now, I did the math, and that's about $3,000 a year, and we didn't spend $3,000 a year on dog maintenance. I suppose we could. Maybe we should. I don't know. I could see some years we did that, particularly years where we had a teeth cleaning, but most of the time it was routine checkups and other normal stuff. When asked specifically about what was covered, he gave a somewhat vague answer, and I said, I'll think about it. And he gave me a funny look. So then I went out to the front desk, and as I was checking out, the person at the front desk said to me, so we'll sign you up for the doggy care subscription plan today, right? And I said, no, but I'm willing to think about it. Do you have any brochure on it? And they didn't. They had a QR code, and on the QR code, it was a vague description of what was actually covered. So in essence, I was going to subscribe to something that was reasonably expensive, and I had no idea what I was paying for. That is the nature of a lot of subscriptions, by the way. You think that you're buying one thing, your mind creates a scenario where that's the appropriate purchase, and then when reality hits, it's not appropriate at all. But people are emotionally attached to their subscription plan. Magazine subscriptions are a classic one. I had a magazine subscription for several years to a really good magazine. I just never looked at it because I didn't have the time. But I wanted to look at it, but I didn't. So eventually I canceled it and took that money and reapplied it to other things. If you go into your bank statement or your credit card statement right now, my guess is if you're average out there, you probably have 3 to 6 subscription plans, things that you pay for every single month that just are billed right to a credit card. And many of those, if you go to cancel them, they'll offer you a better deal to try to keep you as a customer. But I would actually recommend that you only keep the ones that you know you will truly miss. The others, let go. By canceling most, if not all, of your recurring subscriptions, the chances are good that you won't miss most of them and you will significantly lower your monthly bills. Tip number 6, sell the car and use a rideshare program. Owning a car is expensive, particularly if you're living on Social Security alone. Now, there are some security reasons for having a car, but a lot of people live in an area where public transportation is readily available and an Uber or a Lyft can reach them in just a couple of minutes. Because owning a car, you have to pay for the car, you have to pay for insurance, you have to pay for fuel, and you have to pay for maintenance of that car, even if you don't drive it. Every year or two, you need an oil change, a tire rotation. You get the point. 10 years ago, this would have been a much different discussion because owning a car means safety for a lot of people. But rideshare programs now make car ownership optional, especially for retirees who don't drive very much. I've got a question for you. How prepared are you for retirement? Well, for a lot of people, the answer is I have no idea. If that's the case, take our free quiz to find out. The quiz takes 2 minutes, it's 15 questions, and a 12-page report, totally free, will be sent to you as my gift to you. If this is of interest to you, go to holyschmidt.com/quiz, take the quiz, and see the results instantly. Tip number 7, understand what financial and non-financial assistance is available at the state level. Some assistance at the state level is almost as good, sometimes even better, than what's offered at the federal level. Some offer direct financial assistance programs. Others offer other types of assistance like food safety programs. But the important point to note is that you need to know what's available. And I will tell you, some people even move because some states' benefits are so good. So start with your state, find out what's available, and also look into other states that you have an interest in. Tip number 8, work longer if possible, and if not, think about a part-time job. You can earn up to $24,480 in 2026 without having to give any of your funds back to the Social Security Administration. In fact, if this is the year that you reach full retirement age, you can earn up to $65,160 in that year, in addition to receiving Social Security. And once you reach full retirement age, the SSA doesn't require you to give any funds back. You can work full-time and receive Social Security. But the point is, working longer provides additional security. You're contributing to FICA, which increases your Social Security payment in many cases. You have income coming in, which means that almost always, with people who are working full-time anyway, that amount is more than what they receive from Social Security. And you have a lot of other costs covered. Oftentimes, benefits are provided from an employer that you wouldn't get in retirement. And importantly, the additional income might allow you to save for retirement. And if you're watching a video on how to live on Social Security alone, that might be very useful. And finally, working longer often means that you don't need to claim Social Security early to pay your bills. Which brings me to tip number 9, optimizing your Social Security payment. Now, believe it or not, on the same level of lifetime income, someone can have a payment that is 77% larger than the same person who took their Social Security payment early. Let me explain to you what I mean. If you take Social Security at age 62, at least in 2026, then you're going to get 70% of what you would receive at full retirement age. At full retirement age, you get 100% of what you would receive at full retirement age, of course. But if you wait until age 70, you get 124% of what you would receive at full retirement age. So if you compare 124% to 70%, that difference is a 77% increase in the size of the payment, plus the cost of living adjustments along the way, because you get those also, whether you take Social Security early or late. Of course, you need to consider your health, your spousal situation, your personal situation, whether you need funds or not is the most important thing to consider, but also being able to factor into the equation how much you receive at age 70, 67, 62, and everywhere in between is very, very useful. And you can get all of your information on the SSA website, which shows you all of your estimates at different ages. Just go to ssa.gov, log into My Social Security, and away you go. Tip number 10, stop subsidizing capable adults. As parents, we often pay for everything for our children from the time they're born until they become an adult. But for a lot of people, that doesn't stop when their child becomes an adult. They continue to subsidize them well into adulthood. But if you're living on Social Security alone, this is not helpful for your specific situation. It causes you to do some things that you shouldn't have to do. So have a discussion with your adult kids, explain the situation to them, let them know that you can't subsidize them, give them a date at which point you won't subsidize them anymore, and let them work towards that date and prepare for it. Now, almost always when I say something like this on a video, there's something that goes in the comment section, and that comment is, well, my son or daughter or dependent of some sort is unable to provide for themselves. That's a different story. I'm talking about capable adults that are receiving an allowance from mom and dad, which improves their quality of life, but they could do without that allowance. Finally, the joy to dollar ratio. This is supremely important. There was a study done many years ago that said over a certain dollar amount, people aren't any happier or are far less happy per dollar spent. I call that the joy to dollar ratio. It does have a technical term, but we'll leave it at joy to dollar ratio. And basically, what you need to understand is that happiness and the amount you spend are not correlated beyond a certain point. Now, let me explain. For most people living on Social Security alone, they can live a lifestyle that has safety and security, the two most fundamental aspects for anyone going into retirement or in retirement. You need to be safe and you need to be secure. The next level up is comfort. You need to be safe, you need to be secure, but also it's really nice to be living in retirement and be comfortable. And again, most people can do that on a very, very modest income, Social Security alone in many cases. And the next level up is enjoyment. And for most people, again, that doesn't cost a lot of money or even anything in some circumstances, depending on how you arrange your life. To have enjoyment in your life can be something as simple as playing a board game every night with your partner or having a phone call with a friend. But the next level up is where the finances really change. Everything we talked about had small incremental increases in cost. But then beyond that, costs start to explode. But the joy level doesn't explode. When you go from enjoyment to excitement, and I'm talking about taking that trip to China or going to the Caribbean or buying that brand new sports car, that's exciting. But the joy level doesn't go up, except for at the moment you purchase that item. Beyond that, within a few days anyway, it doesn't really impact you the way that you think it will impact you. But yet that next step is massively expensive. And the final level up is what I call the rock and roll retirement lifestyle. And this is what a lot of people think they want when they're thinking about retirement in the future. It's flying first class, or better yet, having your own jet. It's having the Ferrari or the Aston Martin. It's staying in 5-star hotels every time you travel. On and on it goes. And you can construct a really big list. And I know people who actually have arranged their lives to be really successful, and they do live like that. But when you look at them, they're not really any happier than the person who is happy hanging out and just playing Scrabble with their partner on a Thursday night or talking with a friend on the phone on a Tuesday afternoon. So understand, you can be happy on a modest income if you arrange your life correctly. If you like this video, check out that video, 5 Big Changes to Social Security in 2026. Also, don't forget to give our partner a chapter a call at 440-703-1224 if you want to talk to somebody about Medicare. This is Geoff Schmidt, and I will see you in that video right there.